Hello folks, welcome back to another video. Hopefully you can hear me all right. We're in the middle of a bit of a storm in England right now, so it's incredibly windy outside. But I have another light video. The guys over at CoLight, obviously they previously sent me the D07s to try out, which I was pretty impressed with, and they've now sent me the D09 Pros. So if that is of any interest to you, stay tuned, and I'll obviously talk about what you get in the box, how I've installed them, you wired them up, configured them, etc. So yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to do, specs. The only specs I'm going to give you on these is that they are IP68, rated, and that they are currently on their website $176, I believe. I will leave a link in the description, which will include a discount, code. Full transparency, they did send me these lights for free, but the reason I don't want to focus on specs is when it comes to things like wattage and lumens and all that sort of thing, I don't know enough about that subject to really give you that information in a way that's digestible. And if I'm honest, when it comes to wattage and lumens and all that business, I think it's something you really need to see with your own eyes. Now, I'm gonna tackle one thing right off the bat. As you will have seen from the video, thumbnail and some of the B-roll that I've used in the start of this video, these lights bear an uncanny resemblance to the Lone Rider motor lights. So rather than wait for somebody to make a comment in the video, I thought I'd tackle this head on. I think CoLight themselves would absolutely say these lights are, marketed as a cheaper alternative to the Lone Rider motor lights. They're about, I think they're just over, I think they're about 3.5 times less expensive. Now, I'm not going to do a comparison because I can't. I don't have the Lone Rider motor lights. But what I will say is there is going to be no, slating of anything Lone Rider do. I'm a massive Lone Rider fan. I have their motor case, motor bags, motor pegs. I've seen the motor lights in action. They're phenomenal. But one comment I keep seeing on a lot of different, forums is I love the motor lights. However, I don't ride at night. Or in situations enough where I can really justify the price tag. So I'm going to leave the comparison there because at the end of the day, it's not really for me to say buy one versus the other, one's better than the other. So this is just, my thoughts, how I've installed these, how I've configured them, and what I think of them at the price point that they obviously are. So I'm going to do a very quick unboxing. What's in the box? What do you get? And then I'm going to move on to how I've installed them on my bike, because I haven't done it using all of the parts that are in the box. You'll see that when I show you how I've actually mounted them and how I've wired them in. So I've not used the mounts or the majority of the wiring that's come in the box, not for any other reason than I wanted to do this if people are going to compare these to the Lone Rider motor lights, then I felt it was only fair to mount them and configure them in as representative way as I can. So that's what I've done, and that's also why this video's taken longer than I expected. So I know CoLight has been waiting for a while for me to get this done. I'm very sorry it's taken this long. I managed to finally get some nighttime footage last night. So yeah, let's move on with the unboxing and get into the more, meaty stuff. I'll stick, chapter markers in as always. If you want to skip ahead, not interested in the unboxing, you just want to get to one part of it, I won't take offense. You do your own thing, and yeah, you hopefully enjoy the video. Okay, so what do we get in the box? This part is very straightforward. So in the box we have the obviously the actual lights themselves. Now I will pause here for a moment and say that I already shot this part of the footage and I can't find it, and I've now already installed the lights. So you're going to see the lights on the bike, anyway, in the next, section, and you will have already seen a little bit of B-roll at the beginning anyway. So you get the actual lights themselves with obviously the little sort of hanger that they're on. You get these where you can obviously put these on and make the entire light amber, which on the D07 Pros I didn't use, and I'm not going to use it on these either. You have a little mounting bracket for the remote, which I'm also not going to use, which will become clear why shortly, and I've already alluded to it anyway. And in here you have the mounting hardware. So we have these bolts for actually mounting the lights onto the bar mounts. So you get these different rubber inserts depending on the thickness of your bar. I'm just going to move those out of the way. Now I did use these on the D07 Pros to mount them to the crash bars, and I was never a fan of it. I feel like I kind of rushed it. So these are the bar mounts that you get, with it, and these are the actual bolts to mount it to it. So on these ones, I have not gone down this option. So these are the standard mounts that you get with it, but like I say, I'm not going down that route. And then you get the wiring. Now the wiring is fairly extensive, because obviously these lights are not smart lights. So they require some, wiring. Now, luckily, because I lost the original unboxing footage, they actually kindly sent me 2 sets of the wiring. So you get all of the wiring here. So this is the sort of, this is the sort of brains of it. And all of the wires are obviously going in there, and they're obviously coded. So if you are wiring it into an older bike that doesn't use a CAN bus system, you can wire these directly into the switches and things like that, but I'm not going to be doing that. And these are the actual plugs for the lights themselves. Now what you will notice over the D07 Pros that only have 3 wires, these have 4. That will become clearer soon. And you also have the remote if you want to mount it that way. So that is everything you get in the box. Obviously you have the wires to mount this, to be able to wire this directly up to the battery, but again, I'm not going down that road. Okay, so what I've done in my instance is I've just basically taken the 2 wires that actually go to the lights themselves, which is this one, and I simply chopped it off. So all this other wiring is completely redundant. So I only have the two thick black wires with the waterproof plugs for the lights themselves. So that is because as I've already mentioned, I'm using the Hex exCAN to actually power this. So that really covers the unboxing. Like I say, for the wiring, in my case, I am just using these 2 wires here. Okay, so the shed is in a little bit of disarray. It's incredibly hot in here. It's currently 29 degrees here, and in my shed, which has got no insulation, it is even hotter. So let's breeze through this. How have I mounted these and how have I wired them up? So as I mentioned at the start of the video, instead of mounting them on the crash bars like I did with the D07s, I think it was, that I wanted to mount them in a more neat, you know, place. So I bought the Denali mounts, which you'll see here. They're under here. The lighting is a bit bad, but they basically go up and they bolt in here. So this is how they're actually mounted. I need to get like a sort of, you know, plastic cap for that, but it's a very, very, very strong, sturdy mount, and it's bolted in here. And so basically what I've done is I've gone, you know, up here and behind the air duct. Now this wiring here is for the Chiggy, ignore that, but I've basically gone behind this sort of panel here. I undid that screw, bearing in mind I've had to actually take off the beak, side panels, and I've also removed that. So it then runs down here behind this, and then essentially comes out in front of the fuel tank and goes up here and down. Now I don't know whether I'm going to keep it here. If I do, I'll add another bit in, and then it goes down behind this block and under here. Now ignore this, it looks a little bit, you know, messy. I'll talk about what each of these are, you know, shortly. But the reason I might not leave it like this is because although in the Lone Rider install video for their lights, they actually have the wires basically coming up here, joining in the middle and then going down, so there should be room underneath it. I think their wires are a bit more squidgy and a bit more, you know, pliable, so I may not leave it like this, but like I say, if I don't, I'll update you with that. Okay, so I had to have a little rethink for the wiring. So it does still go up and under here, up to where the air duct is, and then basically behind here, as you can see, you can probably see it's there, just sitting behind there. And then now instead of it going up and over the tank here, it comes across here, which looks, I appreciate it looks a bit, you know, rubbish. And then goes behind here, and then finally brings me out here. But with it going up and down here, which Lone Rider on their lights actually recommend, because you get a single wire that comes up and then splits off. Problem was, once it came down to here, these wires were about here, so I didn't have enough length to put the pigtails on and then join it into the exCAN without having to extend the wiring. But now I have a good excess, so I'm going to leave it like that for now. I know the proper way is to have the tank off, and I know that is very easily, but my mechanical prowess is limited, and knowing my luck, I'd break the connector. And yeah, maybe I'll do that in the future, because I know that is considered to be the proper way. So I am aware, but I'm going to leave it like this for now. The panels will fit on. So to install the wiring like this, all I had to do was remove the beak, which is 2 clips underneath at the front that look like screws, but they're not. And then it unclips from here. And then there are 2 bolts, one here and one down here, that then take this whole side piece off, and that's really it. I did take these 2 T40s out just to help getting the wires behind there, but apart from that, I didn't really have to remove a lot. If you are going down the tank, it's just these 2 bolts here. There's a T30, probably can't see it down there, and then inside the little thing here, there's a couple of T T25s, and then finally around here there's a T25 both sides there. So that would actually get you this entire bit off. There is obviously the quick release connector for the USB in there, but it is quite straightforward. If I can do it, anyone can. So now I've done that, I'm going to get it all back together, and then I'm going to talk about how I've got the lights configured, how I've programmed the exCAN, and the various options that I think would be good combos of how you could have these lights. But I'm really happy with how they look with the Denali mounts on there. Like I say, I need to get some plastic bits just to put on top of the bolts to make it nicer, but it is rock solid, and I think it really looks rather nice. Okay, so I've already shown the wiring route, and then I obviously had to move it because of the length of the wires. So I just want to briefly touch on how I've actually wired it up. So I will stick a wiring diagram on the screen, shortly, so you can pause that. And I'll also stick a Google Drive link to the diagram as well in the description. But on the previous video for the D07 Pros, I used on each of the hex exCAN circuits, I thought I had to wire in both the live, the orange, and the earth, the black, but you don't. I spoke to Hex regarding this, and you only need to earth them once. So on the red circuit, I'm actually using both the earth and the live, but for the other three, I'm actually only using the live, and it works absolutely perfectly. So that reduced the amount of wiring, because like I say, on the previous ones, I had to do a lot more wiring, because I basically had 4 earths all going into one, then going into the 2 earths on the actual the actual lives on the actual lights themselves. But now, like I say, I've only earthed them once, and it doesn't matter. So that is as tidy as I can make it. Again, I've used those soldering shrink wrap sort of connectors. That works well. So it's as neat as I can make it, really. Underneath this bike, it's probably one of the worst that I've worked on for the wiring, in terms of the space. I mean, there is just no free space at all, so it's as neat and tidy as I can make it. So I'll move on now to how I've actually programmed the hex exCAN, because basically I have the red circuit, which is the main beam, so all of the white LEDs. The blue, I think I'm right in saying I've got as just the bottom 4 soft white LEDs for the nighttime running lights, and then I've got these 2 for the left and right indicators, which are also the amber DRLs. So let's get this plugged into the laptop, and then I'll show you how I've got that configured. And also I'll show you a couple of other options as well, if you don't have all 4 circuits on your exCAN free, or you simply don't want to use all 4. Obviously that will limit the functionality of the lights, but I'll show you that as well as a different option. Okay, so let's get into the programming of the exCAN. So I have obviously used all 4 of the channels in the hex exCAN, so that's going to be my optimal setup to get the best out of these lights. At the end I will mention a 2 and 3 channel configuration that may work if you don't have all 4 of them spare like I do. but for now we're going to work on it as if it's the, you know, optimal setup. I will stick a wiring diagram in, I won't stick it up on the screen, but I will stick it in as a link in the description and a pinned comment. And I'll also try and do a wiring diagram for the other two alternative versions as well. So first of all, we obviously need to get into the Hex exCAN software, which I already have running, and I'm linked to the bike. Okay, so let's start with each of the circuits. So the red circuit here, I have configured that as auxiliary lights, and that has the red wires of both of the light pods wired in, and I am using this for what I would call the high beam. So that is why for the day and night intensity it's set to 0, but for the high beam, you know, side of it, that is set to 100. It's only active when the engine's running because I don't want any extra draw on the, you know, engine. It will turn off when the turn signals are active, which, if I'm honest, the likelihood of me having, you know, full beam on and the turn signals is incredibly unlikely, but that is what I have switched on. I have strobe when horn active, which, and also strobe to flash on pass. Now, you know, flash on strobe on flash to pass is when you pull the high beam switch, at least on a BMW anyway. You pull the high beam in like you're going to flash somebody 3 times in quick succession, and that will, like when you use the horn, that will make these lights, you know, strobe. So you get the full spread of white light at full brightness, and it strobes 3 times, I think, which you should have just seen on the screen. No other options set on that. The blue circuit, so I have got this set as also auxiliary lights, but set to, and the white wires of both of the light pods are wired in. So the white wire on these, that controls just the bottom 4 of the white LEDs, which are sort of more of a, what's the word, like a softer, you know, pattern. So I have these as a nighttime, you know, running light. So I have them at 10% brightness, you know, everything else off, only when the engine's running, and also off when the turn signals are active, which you should be watching right about now. All of the other options off because they're not, you know, necessary. And then I have the yellow and the white circuit. So I got these the wrong way around, but you can configure this in the exCAN. You know, that's one of the plus points of it. So I have the yellow wires of these lights. I have one going to the yellow circuit, one going to the white circuit, essentially making these a pair of turn signals, or indicators as we call them in England. So I have them set so that when the turn signals are in operation, they are at full brightness, and I've also got them set very low as a running light. Now, the only downside is that this running light is like this day and night. So during the day, I just have a very low amber ring on, and then obviously when I use the turn signals, I get full brightness on whichever side is being used. I wish there was an option to have this running light switch off at night, but that is a limitation of this configuration. It's not the lights, it's the exCAN software. So that's how I've got it configured. Very straightforward. I've not, you know, messed around with any of the sort of modulation options or anything like that, and I've been running it in this configuration for the last 500-600 miles. So, long enough to properly, to properly try it out. Now, if you only have 3 circuits left on your exCAN, or you only want to use 3, I think the most optimal way, in my opinion, to utilize three circuits would be to use the left and right turn signals, which would obviously use 2 circuits and give you the amber running light. And I would probably also utilize the red circuit, or at least the red circuit, as I've got it here, with the red wires, so that you have that, high beam, full beam control. But I would perhaps have it set so that at night you get the full spread of white LEDs, down very low. That's how I would personally configure it if I only had 3 circuits left on the exCAN. So you still get your left and right indicators, and you also get your full beam. So you're basically losing the lower 4 white LEDs as your nighttime running light, but you get the full spread as your running light, just down very low. So it's kind of a trade-off. So if you only have 2 circuits, or you only want to use 2 circuits, I think my preferred setup, so that I was getting use out of the amber and the white lights, is I would probably have this circuit that has the white wires, so the full spread of the white LEDs. I would probably have this set to 0 for the day, 10% for night, and then full brightness when obviously I use the high beam. And then on this circuit I would probably join both of the yellow wires from the light pods in, and I would have this set as 10% for the day, 0 for the night, and 0 for the high beam. And then I would probably also have it set to off when the turn signal's active, just to make it clear. That's how I'd have it. Obviously you can mix and match these depending on how many circuits you have free, but those are the options I would personally go for. Like I say, I will stick some wiring diagrams. I'm no wiring diagram expert, so it will be me just using paint to try to get those in some readable format. I will try and stick them on the screen as I'm talking about them. So if I've managed to actually do that, you will have already watched that anyway. So enough waffling from me. That takes care of the programming. So let's move on to some nighttime footage of how bright these lights are on full brightness. I'll do a bit of walk around footage and also give my final thoughts while that's going on. Okay, so if I've managed to edit all this together in some semblance of order, because I have filmed the various bits at different times over a 6-week period. So while you're hopefully watching a little bit of nighttime footage on your screen right now to illustrate how bright they are. So all of the nighttime footage that you're seeing on this video was shot on a clear dark night on very, very dimly lit roads. I've as you've already seen in the video, I've taken off the original OEM spotlights, so it is the comparison is just the BMW light on just the BMW headlight on dip beam, and then with everything on full beam. So the BMW light and both of the D09s. So what do I think? I mean, I've had them on the bike for about 500-600 miles now. I've ridden them in I'd say probably 28-degree heat right the way through to 10 degrees, raining. I've jet washed the bike. I didn't make any special allowances for water ingress. I thought if I'm going to find out that they leak, rather do it now. And like the D07s, which I rode twice to Scotland with, and they got drenched and covered in crap, they have been absolutely, you know, flawless. They're going to stay on the bike because in less than 2 weeks' time, I'm off to the Dolomites, and it seems I have bad timing when it comes to going to Europe. It seems to rain every year that I go, but they're going to get a good test in hopefully some, you know, pretty decent heat and hopefully some rain. But they are incredibly bright, and for me, having the extra indicator and the amber DRL, for me that's the most important part. They always say, you know, be safe, be seen, and I can't agree, you know, enough with that. When I had the original auxiliary lights on the bike, I used to have them on all the time, because on this bike in the menu they're listed as additional headlights, and I still have people say I didn't see you, and literally pull out on me, or say that they didn't notice me indicating or anything like that. So for me it's it's 70% the visibility of me when anyone sees the front of my bike, and then obviously I do ride at night. Once we get into winter, it's getting dark, sort of 4 o'clock in the evening, and that's normally when I start doing my blood bike riding. So come October, November time, I'm going to be riding at night, and where I live there's a lot of dimly lit roads, a lot of potholes, so I can't praise these lights enough. They were easy to set up. Had I paid my own money for them, I mean, I don't know what 176 US is in pounds. I'll stick it on the screen now, but it's going to be, well, I imagine it's probably going to be in the 140, 150 pound region. And I think that's a pretty reasonable price. The coating on the lights, I don't know if it's paint or if it's powder coated, but it seems very durable. The D07s don't show any signs of wear on them. So yeah, like I said, there is a link in the description with a cheeky little discount code if you like these. If there's anything you think I've missed, like I say, the video has been filmed over a longer period than I would normally like. If I've missed anything out, not made anything quite clear enough, you have any questions, also with the 3 wiring examples, there's obviously different ways you can configure that. Those aren't the only options. So if you have any that you think would be better ways of utilizing these lights, especially on a bike like mine that has a CAN bus network with an exCAN, please do stick a comment down below, and as always, thank you very much for watching.